In today's Adobe Illustrator tutorial, you will learn how to create Op Art illustration and will see amazing possibilities of 3D effect in Illustrator. First you will learn how to create and save pattern, and then we'll see how to adjust 3D settings, apply your pattern to 3D shapes, and how to add shadows using gradient and blending modes. After this tutorial, you will be able to create your own Op Art illustrations and experiment with combinations. You are watching TNT tutorials? Let's move on and create a new document. Select Print, A4, Horizontal Orientation, and click on Create. Rename this layer to Guides. Press Ctrl+R. Drag Guides like so. Lock this layer. Hold Alt and use Scroll to zoom out. To navigate through your workspace, hold Space to use Hand tool. Select Fill Color icon, click here on Color, select RGB, and pick black color. Layers panel, create new layer, rename it to Background, M for Rectangle tool. You can create rectangle with any size to fill background. I usually simply create huge rectangle like so, and lock layer. Let's zoom in. Now you can download reference by the link in the video description, create new layer, rename it to Reference, File, Place, and find path to downloaded reference. Then click somewhere on the workspace, V for Selection tool, and move reference anywhere you want. Let's create pattern, create new layer, and rename it to Pattern. Swatches, pick white color, M for Rectangle tool, V for Selection tool, deselect this rectangle, hold left mouse button on Rectangle tool, and pick Line Segment tool. You can also press this button on your keyboard to pick Line Segment tool quickly. Then start to draw line and hold Shift to build straight line, like so. Then eye for eyedropper tool and pick this black color. Swap Fill and Stroke, Properties, and change stroke width. Don't worry about stroke width, because right now I will show you how to quickly experiment with pattern, save different patterns, and then easily apply them to 3D shapes to see which one of them will work for you the best. So let's leave this stroke width for now. I will move this line like so, hold Alt, start to move this object to the right, and hold Shift also. Choose Distance, release left mouse button, and press Ctrl+D, as many times as you need. Now let's select all these objects. Symbols. If you don't have this panel here, click on Window, Symbols. Also, if you will have some default symbols, you can select them and delete. So with these objects selected, let's create new symbol. I will rename it to 1 and click OK. After this, even if you will delete these objects, you will still have this pattern here. So that means, let's press Ctrl+Z, that you can change this pattern and save it as pattern number 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. First that you will need to do, after you will save this pattern as symbol, right-click, break link to symbol, then Object, Ungroup, and ungroup again. Then hold Shift and deselect white rectangle. Properties. Let's play with stroke width. Also you might want to change distance, so let's select them all, deselect white rectangle, delete these ones, duplicate this line like so, and press Ctrl+D. Select all these objects again, Symbols, New Symbol, and rename this one to symbol number 2. As I already told you, you can quickly create a lot of patterns, save them. That doesn't mean that you will need to use them, but this will allow you to experiment, get some unexpected results, and try different combinations. So, as I see that I don't need this pattern anymore, I can hide it, or to avoid any confusion from your side, I can delete it. Now let's create first 3D shape in this illustration. I'm talking about this background shape. Create new layer. You should have color for stroke only. Let's pick white color. L for ellipse tool. Draw ellipse using Shift and also you can press space to move it. A for direct selection tool, pick this point and delete it. Simply press delete on your keyboard. With this object selected, Effect, 3D, Extrude and Bevel, Preview. Let's select Bottom, and now to see what you're doing much better, let's click here on Map Art. Try to find needed surface and apply pattern. Let's try this one. If pattern is too big, you don't need to find corner points, you just need to find any point, even point that on the side of this pattern. Hold Shift plus Alt and make this pattern smaller, like so. Also to rotate it, you can do it like so. You don't need to find corner points. If you will pick wrong surface for pattern, you can click here on Clear or Clear All. For now let's click OK and play with Extrude Depth. To see what you're doing much better, just click OK, zoom out, move object as you want. I will hold Alt, change size. Don't worry about all parts that are out of your artboard. Later I will show you two ways to hide them. Let's click on Properties, select Applied Effect, Preview, Map Art again. What you should definitely know, take a look at this artboard here. I will click OK, and I will click on Map Art again. You can see that this artboard is increased. I can increase it, but I can't make it smaller. If you will click OK and click on Map Art again, it will be even bigger. Just scroll down and click on Cancel. Here's how you can avoid this moment. Just click OK, apply the effect again, Preview, Map Art, and everything will work just fine. So in such cases just click OK, exit 3D panel and enter it again. Let's find our surface. Let's adjust pattern, like so. Click here on Shade Artwork, OK, more options. If you don't want bright highlights, you should pick Diffuse Shading, play with Lightning Source, play with Ambient Light, Light Intensity, and Blending Steps. If you will increase blending steps, all transitions will be smooth. Now let's apply perspective. Adjust it as you want. Don't worry about size, don't worry about anything. Just play with design, make sure that everything works for you, and later we will adjust everything to make it look clean and professional. So for now let's try this combination. Click OK, A for direct selection tool, pick this point, hold Shift and move it up. As you can see, this shape becomes deeper, and according to this, we can see perspective better. So I will make this shape even deeper. V for selection tool, hold Alt, and you can also adjust this shape like so. If you will see that pattern is not visible, don't worry in this case. This is something similar to what we want. Applied effect, preview. Let's change perspective to 0. Click OK, and simply increase this object like so. I will change proportions here. Applied effect again, preview. Change extrude depth. And now let's play with perspective again. I think I will apply 60 degrees. Map Art. Let's adjust this pattern, like so. If you need to add one more lightning source, just click here on New Light and experiment with it. I remind you that you can pick plastic shading. You will have more options here, but I personally don't use shadows from 3D effects. Later I will show you much better way to apply shadows to these 3D shapes. I will change ambient light, click OK. What you should always pay attention to, sometimes pattern might get broken like this. You can see that something is wrong with these lines. In this case, pick Object, Applied Effect, Preview. First that you can do is play with perspective or extrude depth just a bit. Also you can change proportions of this object using Direct Selection tool or Selection tool, just as I already showed you. But if it still won't work for you, you should click here on Turn Cap Off. And what it does to your 3D shape, let's click here on Map Art. As you can see, we had 7 surfaces, but now we have 5 surfaces. Let's clear it. And here is front surface. Let's pick Pattern, adjust it to this surface, and uncheck Shade Artwork. As you can see, after I moved this pattern just a bit, everything looks okay. So that's what you can also try. Move this pattern, not only on vertical axis, but on horizontal axis also. I will click on Shade Artwork, look here. This line gets broken, and if I will uncheck Shade Artwork, it will be fixed. So let's click OK. I will decrease perspective. Now lines look even better. I will click OK. What you can also do to try to fix pattern is to play with stroke width. Just take a look at pattern. I will change stroke width. And you can see that we definitely have some results here. So keep in mind all that options. Now let's lock this layer, create new layer, rename it to 3D2, L for ellipse tool, draw ellipse like so, A for direct selection tool, pick this point, and delete it. Let's move this one here, Effect, 3D, and this time we will pick Revolve, Preview. We don't want this result this time, so let's click here and select Right Edge. As always, here you can play with lightning source. I will pick Diffuse Shading for now. Increase blending steps. Here in position, let's select Front, Map Art. Let's adjust it like so. Let's try to fit these lines. In this case, design will look much better. For now, let's click here on Shade Artwork. Here is how you can quickly experiment with patterns. Just pick needed pattern and try to adjust it. As you can see now, you have absolutely different results. And this is how you can try any pattern that you will create. So I will return to this one, click OK, and after this you can rotate it up or down, like so. And here is one more reason why I don't like shading in 3D effects. As you can see, we have some roughness here, and to avoid it, let's click on Applied Effect, Map Art, and uncheck Shade Artwork. You can see that all lines are smooth. Let's click OK. If you will have some problems with pattern for such shapes, you can use the same methods to solve them, as I already showed you. But first of all, simply try to rotate this object just a bit. Also, if you will see something like this, that means that you simply need to increase pattern. I will change rotation here, like so. Play with perspective until you will get needed result. If you don't understand what result do you need with such zoom in, just click OK, zoom out, Applied Effect, Preview, and play with perspective again. I think I will apply 80 degrees, and I will make this object smaller. So here is first way to hide everything that is outside of artboard. Click here on View, Trim View. Sometimes Trim View works just fine for you, but sometimes you want to see everything that is around, but simply hide all unneeded parts. And I will show you this method after we will apply shadows. So for now let's uncheck Trim View. Let's lock 3D2 layer for now. Create new layer. Rename it to 3D1 shadow. Place it here. Swap fill and stroke. It really doesn't matter what color will you pick right now. All we need is to have fill color, and we need none for stroke color. M for rectangle tool, draw rectangle, gradient, linear gradient, after this properties, opacity. In blending modes, select multiply. Gradient panel again. Let's move this marker to the center. You can even enter 50% here. Hold Alt, duplicate black marker here. Then you can press G for gradient tool and adjust gradients like so. Play with sliders to make softer transitions here. I will select Trim View to see results better. To make shadow transitions even softer, you can press Ctrl+C, Ctrl+F. We just made copy of multiply layer, properties, opacity, and pick soft light. As you can see, shadow becomes much smoother after we applied soft light on top of multiply. Here is how you can experiment with it. Just delete soft light layer, pick multiply blending mode, G for gradient tool. Let's make shadow stronger. Ctrl+C, Ctrl+F, opacity, soft light. Let's pick them both, properties, and change opacity like so. I will adjust 60% here. Now let's lock this layer also. Unlock 3D2 layer, select it, Ctrl+C, create new layer, rename it to 3D2 shadow. Now press Ctrl+Shift+V. We made copy and placed it in 3D2 shadow layer. After this, Object, Expand Appearance, Properties, and in Pathfinder, select Unite. After this, Gradient, Radial Gradient. Let's delete this slider, move this slider here, this marker here, Properties, Opacity, Multiply, G for Gradient tool, and adjust gradient like so. Now let's press Ctrl+C, Ctrl+F, opacity, soft light. You can decrease opacity of multiply layer first, like so. Make soft light layer visible and invisible. To see if you need to decrease opacity for this one, I will leave it as it is. View, Trim View. Let's uncheck Trim View. And it's time to show you second way to hide unneeded parts. Let's unlock these layers, create new layer, rename it to Op Art, select all these layers. After this, select this layer and drag it right here to duplicate it. Rename Op Art layer to Op Art Backup, hide it. We're doing this just in case if something will go wrong with these objects. You will be always able to return to everything that you already did. Let's deselect all these layers. I for eyedropper tool. You can pick absolutely any color, it really doesn't matter. M for rectangle tool. Drag rectangle from corner to corner. Select them all. Right click. Make clipping mask. After this, open this layer group. Select all empty layers. Delete them, open clip group, pick this rectangle, and after you will change proportions for this rectangle, you will change composition. This is very handy. I definitely recommend you to use this method. You never know what results will you like the most. If you would like to change something inside of this clipping mask, just double click here. We're in isolation mode. Let's just pick these layers and change proportions like so. To exit isolation mode, double-click somewhere on the workspace. In conclusion, I can say that you should simply experiment with all the methods that I showed you today, see what else can you do, and even create more 3D shapes with patterns in this scene. If you learned something new from this tutorial, drop a comment below, let me know if everything was clear enough for you and what you liked about this video. If you enjoyed this tutorial, support this channel by clicking on subscribe, and what's most important, by clicking on the bell icon to get notifications about newest tutorials from TNT. I would also appreciate if you will click thumbs up and will share this video. This was TNT Tutorials. See you in next videos!